Welcome again to the next session of Gurukul lectures. So we were trying to understand what could be the contour of the strategy. We understood what are the important questions that we need to answer with respect to the firm, wherein what has to be the purpose of being of a firm. And as a firm, how do we respond to the dynamics of the environment? How do we know that the world is changing and what it is going to matter to me when the world is changing? A simple example. Since last 2 years, the automobile industry is facing a huge shortage of the semiconductors. Now, how the automobile industry, based upon the 3 years of the disruptions, is going to respond to the dynamics of the COVID disruption? As a strategy, what is to be done in order to see that they do not lose the market space? They do not lose to the competition. Moreover, in view of the new competition coming into the automobile industry, how they should adjust to the demand of the customers, how they should adjust to the new requirement of the customers, wherein the venture remains profitable despite of the change in the competitive setup, despite of the fact that the government regulations are becoming stringent, despite of the fact that the government has introduced the regulation of 15 years limitations for the car market. So how do we respond to the dynamics of the environment? The dynamics which can range from the political, economic, social, legal, technical, etc. And therefore, when we are defining the contour of the strategy, we need to know what are the major issues that need to be encountered when we are on the table for the formulation of the strategy and when we are in the ground for the implementation of the strategy. Because when we are on the table for the formulation of the strategy, we take certain assumptions. We design the strategy based upon the information that we have. But because of the lag of time, the implementation of the strategy requires the on-ground adjustments, and that too we need to formulate and we need to understand. And therefore, we need to know what are the major issues that are to be encountered. We need to have the comprehensive checklist of the factors when we are designing the strategy. We need to, therefore, understand the strategy based upon certain frameworks. The framework of the strategy describes knowing the specific dimensions, knowing the context and issues which are important to design and define the strategy. So, 4 basic issues that we need to address for understanding the strategy. They are understanding the boundaries of the firm, to understand and know the market of the firm and do a comprehensive competitive analysis so that we know how the competition is moving, to know and understand the positioning of the firm and the dynamics which are really creating the dynamics which are really challenging the position. And of course, what kind of internal organization adjustments that I need to have, the preparations that I need to have for my firm. If I am a startup business, I would like to know what are my boundaries, how far am I going to go. When am I a startup business, I would like to define my market very categorically. I would like to know my competition into the choice of industry into which I am. If I am a startup, I would like to know how to position myself and what are going to be the dynamics of my positioning. How the position is going to be factored in and is going to be deterred because of the changes in the environment, and then what are the resources that I would like to address in order to achieve the strategy. Let's take a small example. For suppose I am into a fishing business. What kind of products, what kind of various things, services am I going to take up? If I am into a fishing business, is it only related to the fishing supply, or is it related to the comprehensive, complete value chain that I am going to address? Or is it related to all the different sets of the fishing equipments manufacturing that I am going to cater to? Or even I am going to create the supply for the manufacturing of the boats used for fishing. What is my boundary? What kind of business I am in? And accordingly, where is my market? Whether the market is going to be a local area market, whether it is going to be a big, huge state level, regional level, or national or international level market. Then who are the players? What are their resources? What are their capabilities? How are they moving? How are they challenging? And among that competition, what is my positioning? What are the challenges for my positioning? What are the detours for my positioning? And how much resources I need to allocate? Let's understand these issues in depth. When we are talking of the boundaries of the firm, we need to know what does the firm do horizontally, vertically, or at the corporate level. Now, when we are talking of the horizontal level, we are looking forward to have an understanding what are the various different levels and types of products we are going to cater to my customers. How many different varieties of the products, diversified or non-diversified products, am I going to provide to my customers? As we said, we are a business in fishing. So, are we supplying only fishes? Are we supplying the fish hooks? Are we supplying the nets? Are we supplying the varieties of the different kinds of fishes? Or are we supplying anything you ask for related to fish? Secondly, we need to understand what is the vertical. Vertical across the value chain, vertical across the value chain related to whether I am moving from the catching of fishes to the processing of the fishes to the market of fishes to reaching out to the variety of packaging and supply at the houses to the customers. How far am I going to go in? We need to understand that. I need to create my own boundary. I need to understand my boundary with reference to the horizontal and vertical scope. Where am I going to cater to the customer? And of course, as a corporate, I would like to understand the portfolio of my business. Am I only going to be in fishing business, or am I going to add shipping also? Am I going to add more than shipping, maybe air transport, road transport, or maybe the pharmaceutical also into my business? What are the different portfolios of businesses am I going to have in my corporate structures? So as a firm, as a business entity, I need to understand my boundary. I need to define my boundary. I need to know how far am I targeting to go, how far am I going to take the opportunities horizontally, vertically, or at the corporate level in terms of the diversifications of the businesses. Further, we need to understand the market and the competitive analysis. Here, we need to understand what kind of market, what is the nature of the market. Is it a latent market where the demand is almost non-existing and I need to create a new demand for the business? Is it a market of the people which is into an emerging stage, and therein what all I have to do to create new product opportunities in the business? Is it a market where there is lot of competition? Then whether I have to create a niche for my market. So what stage of market am I targeting to? If there are more than one competitors, if there are few competitors, if there is a monopoly that I need to break, or if there is a monopolistic competition wherein I have to create my own niche. And therefore, I need to understand the competitive strategy, not for myself, but also what are the strategies that is being applied by my competitors which are at my own size, or they are the leaders or they are the followers. I need to understand the structure of the industry. I need to understand which level of the value chain am I supplying, am I catering to, whether I am referring to the B2B segment or I am going into the B2C segment. What do you think Amazon is catering to? Where does the largest business revenue of Amazon comes from? It is the structure wherein you have to pose and you have to understand for the industry. And therein, we need to know what is the structure related to the definition of the industry. The definition of the industry can be based upon the kind of products, the homogeneity of the products that you are supplying. The definition of the industry is based upon the level of the value chain that you are in. The structure is defined by how many players and the size of players that we have. Further, in order to know the competitive analysis, we also need to understand how are they conducting themselves, whether the rate of change of the product, introduction and adoption is very high, whether we need to see that the companies, they are launching the product, launching and changing the product at a high speed, whether the total survivability of the firms is high or low, how firms in the business space are conducting themselves, whether the competition is low, what is the price variations that the companies are maintaining for themselves. I need to understand. Now, for an example, in the telecommunications, particularly the mobile market, how the mobile firms which are supplying the mobile products, mobile phones, how are they conducting themselves? If you see, every year you have number of products which are introduced into the marketplace, and then it is highly segmented in the lower strata of the market to the niche strata of the market. We have the products from the companies like OnePlus, we have the products from Samsung, we have the products even from the companies like Apple. How these three firms are conducting themselves in the marketplace, we all know that. And third aspect is, we need to keep an eye how we and my competitors are performing across the value chain. The performance related to the financial performance, what are the PE ratios, what are the profitabilities, what are the margins that we are able to create, what are the market level of performances that we are making. When we are to formulate and implement the strategy, I need to know the market and the competition thoroughly. For a strategy, for defining a strategy, I need to understand my space and what position am I going to have in the marketplace. As we said, when a company like Apple was having a high premium position, Samsung was having a high market position and capturing the segments from lower segment to the higher segment, a company like OnePlus had a question where to position its product. Secondly, when we are talking of the company like OnePlus, when we are talking of in terms of the strategy, the position is not only based upon the market position, but it is the overall position of the firm in the industry. Whether they are going to be all across the value chain and be the leader as the controller of the comprehensive complete value chain. What competitive position will they need to have? Would you like to design and have a competitive position of a leader or of a follower or even a challenger? So what position would you like to have? And what would be your generic position accordingly? And for that, what are the changes which are going to happen or which are happening is gearing or giving you cues for changing your position. And accordingly, what are the resources and capabilities that you are going to create for yourself? As Peter Drucker had said, what has to be the impulse of alluring the profit? What are you going to do in order to create your firm profitable in all means? And that is where we need to understand the position and the dynamics. And lastly, if you see, in terms of the positioning and dynamics, we need to understand what would be the base for your competitive advantage. Reference to what Professor Hamill and Prahlad had mentioned, and Professor Michael Porter gave in terms of the 5 forces of the competitiveness of a firm, we need to understand how can we gain the competitive advantage? How can we have the competitive advantage over my competitors? Now, in order to understand the boundary of the firm, in reference to the market and the position, with reference to the competition that I have, ultimately there are few questions that we need to answer with reference to our own self as a firm. Based upon this, we decide what we need to do. What is my decision to do? How and on what basis to compete? If I want to be a challenger, then on what basis I need to be challenging? How to organize internally in order to compete? And therefore, I need to have an understanding what kind of organization structure I can create and I need to create. What is the hierarchy that I will require for defining the position that I have decided for myself? If I want to be a highly diversified firm, then what will be the structure? From, as we said, from being a startup firm to the unicorn to a diversified firm, we need to consistently look in for the dynamics for the organizational structure. We need to accordingly know and understand how are we going to acquire and deploy the resources. How are we going to have the firms have the various resources which are at the minimum cost. At the minimum cost, and the deployment of the same resources is easier, is quick and non-replicable. Meaning to say, it leads us to have the two various understandings in the organization. I need to have a strong resource based view to create the competitive advantage, which says that I need to create and have the resources which are there to improve our capabilities, which are there to create competitive advantage for us. The resources which are valuable, resources which are non-imitable, resources which are rare, and resources which are based upon our own unique organization structure. And accordingly, we need to also understand what all different kinds of dynamic capabilities I can create. Now, these capabilities are based upon the tangible and the intangible resources and the capabilities that I own. It is based upon the knowledge that the organizations they create and they have. It is based upon the various different sets of the unique innovative resources and R&D capabilities that the organizations have. The capabilities which are changing with the organization requirements. So, we have to understand the 4 specific dimensions with reference to the understanding of the framework of a strategy with the purpose of the designing, formulation and the implementation of the strategy. And those 4 factors that we had discussed are knowing the boundaries of the strategy, knowing the market and the competition, knowing the various aspects of the position that we are going to take, and of course the internal organization that we need to have, the setups that I need to create. When we have a comprehensive understanding of these 4 issues, we will be able to define, design, formulate the strategy for effective implementation. We would continue with respect to the understanding of the strategy for the better implementation of it in next part. Till then, thank you very much.